Mere conservatism.
I'm Cleve Walker and David Perry, and this is Mere Conservatism. And I want to start with this broadcast, David, by saying, to a certain extent, and this is not really nice to say, people shouldn't say, I told you so.
Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, I'm going to say.
What did you tell me?
Our last broadcast, I said that Trump had the votes to win, and I felt there was no doubt about it, and I said, don't believe the polls, Trump has the votes. All right? I said the problem will be the mail-in balloting.
Well, those are votes, Cleve.
No. When I say votes, I mean actual votes. The mail-in balloting I'm referring to are ballots, but not votes, okay?
I see what you're saying.
And I said that. I said they're going to muddy up the whole thing with that, and they're going to literally cause chaos with that. And I don't want to be right, but I am right. Yeah. Trump had the votes to win this election. The polls were wrong as evidence.
Absolutely true.
Yes. And what did I tell you about the polls?
That they were wrong, that they were skewed.
Don't believe in them, I said.
Yeah. Yeah, you were right. I mean, the polls were more off this time than they were in 2016.
They were.
I believe. And here's the thing about a lot of the mail-in ballots. There's so many details and things we could talk about when it comes to this. Turnout was unbelievable. So the number of people who voted was so big.
Yeah.
It's almost implausible just because it blows out of the water turnout so much. And people are saying, well, because this is a hotly contested election, people really wanted to vote against Donald Trump and for Donald Trump. There's a lot of enthusiasm for him. That is an explanation, okay? I'm just not sure that I completely buy that it had that much of an effect on people this year to where something like, was it like 86% voted, and previously it's like 60%. Usually it's in the 60s. Sometimes it spikes into the 70s, but this was almost 90% turnout. That seems really weird to me, and maybe there's a good explanation for it. Maybe it's legit, but it seems odd.
Well, the big news is, and we need to say this from the get-go, because of the fact this program is pre-recorded, we're not exactly sure right now exactly what state may be called over the course of this time. One may have been called that we're not, even talking about. But
one might have flipped.
Yeah, flipped.
I mean, there's some of those.
Got to let you know that right now. But your state, David, of Georgia, is in the mix, of course. And at least at the time of this broadcast, they were continuing to count ballots. And, of course, the Trump campaign announcing Wednesday it's filing suit against the Peach State, trying to cause a pause in the counting. The president's campaign and the Georgia Republican Party filed that lawsuit, by the way. And Richard Barron is the elections director in Fulton County, which is an area of concern for the Republicans.
None of the ballots get rejected. All that happens is if you make a determination on a contest on a ballot whether the voter intended to vote for this person or this person. So there aren't any rejections.
So Barron says, no problem. Everything's copacetic here in Georgia. You can. I never thought that Georgia, I don't know why I didn't, but I never thought Georgia would be one of the states where the Democrats would be doing the vote stealing thing. I knew that Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and even places like Arizona, I knew they may try something there. I'm kind of shocked to see that Georgia.
I'm not as shocked because I do think that with Stacey Abrams and what happened with the gubernatorial election, I think that she has been instrumental in the Democrats' ground game, let's call it. Mm-hmm. Let's be polite and call it their ground game in what they want to do. So I'm not all that surprised. There are some weird things that have happened. And again, maybe there's reasonable explanations for these things, but it seems strange in certain states counting stopped basically at the same time.
Yes.
And in specific states it happened that are important states. And it all happened around the same time. It's just the way that it has gone down is awfully suspicious. It's
I'm
the
not going
thing.
to be as nice as you. It's not suspicious at all. It's flat out evidence of voter fraud on a scale like this nation has never seen before.
Well, and
Let me just say it.
Well, and that's fine. And I really hope that if that's the case, I really hope that these legal challenges and the poll watchers and the election officials who are watching these things that are for each party, I hope that they get to the bottom of it, and I hope that it's exposed. I really hope, and I pray, and I use that word on purpose. I pray that the right thing happens. That if there's issues, that it gets found out and discovered. And
well, I got to tell you, if the right thing doesn't happen, just the way you described it, it's the end of voter integrity in this nation. Okay, forget about it. Your vote doesn't count if they get away with this.
Yeah.
And so I'm just serious. That's how, to me, how big the stakes are. This has to be the final conflict on this issue of voter fraud that the Democrats have been doing for years. We knew the Democrats used voter fraud. We even joked about them, having the dead vote. But now,
that's true. And
on this scale, got to stop it.
And the thing is, like, people act like this never happens. This has always happened.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it happens every time in every election in every place.
I think it does, but that's just me. Go ahead.
But there have been plenty of times in the past where there's been some fraud and some weird things happening and stuffing the ballot box and things like that. I mean, this is not unheard of. This goes all the way back to the beginning of time when it comes to elections. This kind of thing can happen. It's a really big problem. And what's kind of frustrating, Cleve, what really helps this issue is in-person voting and voter ID on election day,
which is why the Democrats hate that.
Yeah,
okay,
right.
I'm just telling you.
The idea that we have been talking about for a year, that this system and what's happening this year with the increase in mail-in voting and in some cases unsolicited mail-in ballots,
many cases,
that it's ripe for fraud, that it's a big opportunity for fraud to influence an election. I think we're kind of seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
Play out. And this is kind of what we're talking about. And that's not to say that it's necessarily all fraud. Mm-hmm. Some of it probably is. But the point is that it makes it a lot easier to do it. And, Cleve, the biggest issue is that it lessens our ability to be confident in the result of the election.
Your vote does not count if this is allowed to stand. You cannot believe in the integrity of your vote.
This election is so close.
Yeah.
And because of the way that it happened, it's going to be one of those things where people don't really trust it no matter what happens. Now, my entire adult life, the Democrats have always blamed somebody else when they lose an election. It's always some sort of, Russia did it, selected, not elected, whatever. That's always been the case. Republicans haven't ever done that since I've been alive. But this is about to happen. If Donald Trump loses this election, Republicans are not going to accept that this was a fair election.
Well, not just Republicans, but citizens in general, those of good heart and faith anyway.
No, I don't think so, because citizens are going to be fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, those are good heart and faith.
With it because the person that they voted for is going to have won, and they're going to feel like it was justified.
Here's the thing. The fact is it's got to stop here. If it's not stopped here, if this is not the occasion, I mean, that's one of the reasons we voted for Trump. We knew that we had to literally blow up the status quo, and this is part of the status quo. Worse, This is part of the swamp that he's been trying to eliminate, and now it's striking back. If we don't deal it a decisive blow now, it's Katie goodbye.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
but I think we have to have a discussion with everybody and say, look, listen, the Democrats, the left, they want everybody to vote, and I do too. They want everybody to vote. I think everybody wants that. Here, and that's why this is the guise that they use to say, ballots to everybody, mail them out, everybody do absentee, blah, blah, blah. The problem is, guys, listen, when this happens, you're seeing the result. The result is that we don't know the result. It's unsure. We can't depend on it. That's why to keep the integrity of the vote, we need to emphasize in-person voting on the day of the election.
Yeah.
This is important.
But it's not.
We can't do this again.
I want to say this right now. It's not the mail ballot that I have a problem with. It's the fact that the Democrats cannot be trusted to do a mail balloting thing with integrity. That's the point. I mean, yeah, you can mail votes. There are reasons to do that, but they are up to their old tricks of voter fraud, and mail balloting makes it easier. Let's make a quick statement here. Because one of the big states, of course, is Pennsylvania. And again, at the time of this recording, that's not been called. It's one of those states where President Trump's team has filed a lawsuit. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany talked about that lawsuit about the important state of Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia in particular has a history of very peculiar results. You had in the case 59 different precincts where Mitt Romney got precisely 0 votes, which is very unlikely and curious indeed. Just 6 months ago, you had a Philadelphia judge who was convicted in a scheme to accept bribes as he cast fraudulent ballots 4 months ago.
So in other words, this is in the mix there as well already. And again, how do you not have
there is no voter fraud.
How do you not have any votes whatsoever out of thousands and thousands of votes? By the way, I don't know if it's Ohio or Wisconsin, but they discovered ballots, like thousands of ballots, and it was more than 10,000, I know. And every single one of them, Biden was the one that was voted for.
Of course it is.
Now, that's just mathematically impossible.
And I don't know what they mean by find the ballots. Like, see, this is why you need an explanation for these things. Because possibly, let me just propose this, okay? Somebody's going through ballots and they say, I'm going to put all the Trump ones here and all the Biden's ones here. And they separate them that way. Mm-hmm. And then they walk away. Somebody else walks up and finds the Biden stack, okay? So that sounds like something that could theoretically happen. But if that's what happens, can we please get that explanation? Like, explain how something like that can happen legitimately, because I want to hear the explanation for that.
Well, we have already witnesses who have come forth in some of these situations that have talked about seeing pallets and stuff brought in and out of these precincts with nobody knowing what's in it or what's going to and fro. So I'm pretty sure that's a discussion that needs to be had. It's pure and simple. The Democrats are doing what they always did, but they're doing it on a greater scale than ever because they have to, in their mind, get rid of Donald Trump. They tried everything else during the 4 years of his presidency. This is their biggest pitch, to get rid of him. Because I'm telling you, the polls are wrong. Trump had the votes outright to win this election.
Yeah, and we need to talk about a little bit later the vote totals as far as the way the different demographics break down.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. But go ahead.
We're going to bring that back up in just a second. One of the things that came out, though, again, showing how badly the polls were done and how intentionally they were done that way. Democrats expected not just to keep control of the House, but also to get some extra seats. And all the polls show they were going to do that. But House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy was on the daily briefing with Dana Perita on Fox News, and he just said, well, it was the Republicans who actually made inroads in the House, contrary to all that we heard before.
Every pundit said we would lose somewhere between 15 to 20 seats. Mm-hmm. The opposite happened. We're already ahead we've won 7 seats by the AP, and we're ahead in 11 more. This is more diverse. You look at Carlos Jimenez. You look at America is going to be more reflective in Congress in the Republican Party than we've ever had at any given time.
The polls, I feel like, for the president, they were wrong. They were off way more than they should have been, in many cases outside of the margin of error. So that's how you know how bad they were. I think that this shows up even more, though, in the congressional races in the House and in the Senate.
It did.
Because this was supposed to be, like he said, it was supposed to be a bunch of House seats flipping blue.
A blue wave.
And Republican Senate seats flipping. And that just didn't happen.
Not at all.
And if there's a silver lining here, Cleve, if Trump ends up not being president next year and Biden wins, quote unquote, this election, the silver lining is what happened in the congressional races, because Republicans held the Senate.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really important, especially for the next several years in a Biden presidency. If that in fact happens, it's going to be really important that they hold the Senate and hold the line. So that's a silver lining. And I want to say it's a really good thing. And if you look at demographics and who voted Republican this year, it kind of blows the Democrats' plan and the way they see themselves, blows it out of the water. Because the only people that Trump performed worse in as far as demographics is white guys, white men.
Okay.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's white liberals who are leading the charge against Donald Trump. It's not black people, male or female. It's not Hispanics, male or female. It's not Asians, male or female. It's not even women, suburban women. He increased his share of them based on exit polls. So, and by the way, when you look at the exit polls, it's crazy to think that this election is close too. If you look at all the peripheral things, you would think that Donald Trump won this election handedly. I'm telling you, it's really weird.
If the thing were counted properly, he would have.
I mean, he increased his share of black women 4%, increased his share of black men 4%, increased his share of suburban women, as we mentioned, increased his share of the Asian voter, the Hispanic voter. These are people that Democrats think they own. Cleve.
Right, and
I use that word very purposely. They think they own these voters, and Donald Trump blew up the entire Democratic playbook for who they think their voter is.
And you make a great point, and I love to see the fact that, again, he got a higher percentage of black American support, Hispanics. I mean, what he did in Florida was amazing.
Yes, I mean, Florida was great. By the way, Florida, slow clap for Florida. 20 years ago, this was Florida's problem.
Yeah.
Florida has really cleaned things up.
They straightened it out.
And by the way, the Republicans are killing it in Florida.
Yes.
They are doing great in Florida, and that has a lot to do with Donald Trump. Has
and by
a lot
the way,
to do with.
Guess what they found out? Another one of the groups, surprise, that went Trump's way as opposed to Democrats' way. Everybody was talking, well, the senior citizens are so upset with Trump about his handling of the coronavirus. Come to find out, the senior citizens said, no, that doesn't bother us. We are supporting Trump, and they broke in favor of Trump in the numbers in that particular demo. I mean, so again, if this election is counted properly, this should have been an overwhelming landslide. The Democrats knew the only way they could win is chicanery, is doing what they're doing right now. But they're doing it on such a scale. And David, I say this again, this is why it is so important that Judge Amy is on the court. Because this is going to go to the Supreme Court.
Something about this race will end up in the Supreme Court.
It's got to.
Agree.
It's got to. And the good thing about that is it will be fast-tracked. Because back in the day when we had the debacle in Florida and the hanging chads, the Supreme Court did that. They said, we can't wait on the normal thing. We got to take it up now. So they'll do that, and the Supreme Court may have to be the one to put the kibosh on this. And if Trump is reelected, which I believe he will be, by the way.
You do? You think so? You think that this is going to all end up in his favor?
I think when it's all said and done, I don't think the balloting is going to end up in his favor if it's allowed to continue as it is. But I think that if they're able to get a stop on the balloting, the voting, collecting the votes right now, get a look at what's happening with those ballots, have it examined by third party, fourth party people, whatever else, we're going to find out what's happening. It's going to invalidate enough ballots to make the difference. So that's what's got to happen, because otherwise, I mean, oh my goodness gracious! And here's the sad thing: a lot of people are enraged. Some people are just shell shocked. Some people, like myself, I'm just sorrowful about it. Sorry that again I misjudged the Democrats. I thought they could only stoop so far, and they went further.
Yeah.
But I'm also sorrowful because, this is. There are people who they're just losing faith in the nation, in the system, and I can't blame them when I look at situations like this.
Well, and I can't help but feel like I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight with people who voted differently than me. I don't want to get in fights with people online or wherever that voted for Joe Biden. I don't want it to be like that.
Right.
I just want to answer. I want a result for this election. I want it to be right. I want it to be just.
I agree.
And if it's just and it's fair and Joe Biden ekes it out, then that's fine.
That's a good point.
I don't like that.
That's a good point.
I'm happy that we at least held the Senate, and we'll go on. But if this stuff is not legit, and we're having our votes, we're basically being disenfranchised.
Yes, that's my point.
That is terribly unjust, and it's wrong, and I want to see that sussed out as well. I want the answers on this.
And here's the thing. Again, this is what we sent Trump in there for, because this is the system that's been in place all this time, and finally it's being confronted because, everybody who's honest, David, knows what's happening.
Yeah.
Even the Democrats, if they're honest, knows what's happening, but for them it's justified. We cannot let this pass. Not only do I believe that Trump will be reelected, but when he's reelected, the Justice Department will then we're going to have to reexamine the whole thing. The way it's set up.
And we have to remember too, these are state elections. The president is elected by the states. And that's one reason we have such issues, is because every state has their own rules and their own system and their own way of doing things. And so there's 50 separate elections going on when we vote for president. Some of these state governments need to be cleaned out.
Yeah.
In other words, Pennsylvania, maybe y'all need to clean house a little bit.
I would think so. Well, here's the thing, David. This is important. You're right. It is a state thing, but some of the lawsuits that are being filed are filed based upon the fact that those states actually violated their own state laws.
Yes.
There's one state where their attorney general and a judge took it upon themselves to do what only the legislature
That's right. So,
could do.
And what you're talking about is the thing where they extended the date for accepting
right.
ballots and things like that.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
The legislature has to do that.
Exactly. So what you're saying, and I agree with you, is that put whatever deadline you want. Right. It could be 3 days after the election. It could be a week after the election.
Right.
But the legislature does that.
It's in their law.
It has to be the law that the legislature does. So the judge can't just say, "Oh, we're going to just accept them."
Which you did.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And whether or not you should do that, well, that's a decision for the legislature, and you need to follow the rules that have been prescribed.
And so that's a valid basis for any legal action, and the Republican Party of that state is mounting it. And again, that still may have to go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, but didn't that already go to the Supreme Court? And they decided not to rule on it?
They didn't rule on it, right. But believe me, it'll end back up there because, and especially in a situation where literally the populace, a good portion of us anyway, are going to be demanding action. I mean, we're demanding it. I'm demanding it. Okay.
Yeah. But see, and so here's the next thing, Cleve. How do we heal from this? Because no matter what happens, I'm like you. I want this to be done right. I'm demanding action. I want the investigations. I want the recounts. I want all that stuff, and I want to know, what if it comes down on Trump's side, and we still have half the country that now feels disenfranchised? Because whether or not it's true, the left is going to feel that way if Donald Trump wins. And if Joe Biden wins, the right is going to feel that way. No matter if it's true or if it's right or whatever, there's a lot of people that are going to feel disenfranchised. How do we heal from that? How do we come back from that? Are we just done?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you, David. I don't think the nation can properly heal from the situation, no matter what the outcome, because what people would, not you, but a lot of people mean by healing, just come along and just pretend that nothing happened and everything is copacetic.
Trust each other.
Yeah, and just do. That's not going to happen. And I'll be quite honest with you. One half of that equation, the liberal progressives, will never let it happen. There are elements in that party. There is nothing you can do to reach out to them, to assuage their anger, or do anything for them. They literally are going to hate your guts no matter what. And they've shown this.
Yeah, they do. And they say it out loud.
So my point is, there's nothing you can do to appease them other than agreeing with them. And so it has to come down to this. There's a time, and we used to know this. This is a generational thing I'm about to say. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And there's a time when there can't be any compromise. There can't be any way of trying to be differential, to defer to a different party. You just have to say, we got to do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may. Now, for me as a Christian, I'm not doing this thing out of wrath. I'm not even doing this thing because I like the Republican Party. I'm doing this thing because I believe that, number one, God is a God of truth, and anything that is based on a lie is not of him. Mm-hmm. I'm doing it because of the my pro-life convictions. To me, they're the lives of innocent babies that are at stake in this election. Yep. So no matter what how I feel about my side or the other side, that has to be, those are the innocent victims that cannot speak for themselves. And I'm doing it simply because I believe that God answered our prayers in the past election and put Donald Trump there. And I believe the forces arrayed against him are not just political forces. I believe they are evil, and I'll even go so far as to say they're satanic. And I'm saying that from my perspective as a person of faith. I can't compromise with that side. I can't make like everything's hunky-dory. I can personally forgive, but I can't forgive them on behalf of a nation. I can't absolve them of what they've done. So my point is, I'm not in favor of wrath or even insurrection or anything like that. I'm not in favor of that. But at the same time, I cannot allow my desire for us to have some type of sense of unity and peace and healing. I can't allow that to make me compromise on what has happened or is happening.
Because you can have false unity too.
Well, yes.
And fake healing and all that stuff.
Well, that's what they want to have.
Just appeasement, yeah.
That's what they want. They want everybody to be, quote unquote, in uniformity, and it's supposed to be hunky-dory.
Yeah,
but
communists had a definition of peace. Mm-hmm. Peace is the absence of resistance to communism. So that's peace to a lot of the left.
It is.
Absence of resistance.
They want to cancel out any opposition.
And the tricky thing is, Cleve, I used to think, well, maybe we'll just have to split the country. And we'll have to, and I'm serious about this. Eventually, we're going to have to do red states and blue states. We're going to have to leave each other because we just can't coexist. Now I'm in a purple state. I live in Georgia, and all of a sudden, how are we going to split Georgia? That's weird.
Well, you're welcome just to come on over to South Carolina. Okay,
I might have to.
So far, we've got our act together.
Your football's not nearly as good, but.
Well,
that's okay.
we won't go there.
Of course, you have Clemson in South Carolina. We have Georgia and Georgia Tech. So maybe it evens out.
So here's the thing, and again, if ever there's a time we need to remind people that our conservatism is also based on our faith. Ultimately, I've got to trust in the sovereignty of God.
Right on. I'm with you. He is in control, and we know because we've read the book.
Yeah.
In the end, it gets worse. It gets a lot worse before it gets better. I don't know if that's what this is.
It's a part of it.
It feels like it is sometimes, but I don't know. I just want the right thing to happen. So hopefully we'll see that happen real soon.
Yeah. And may God bless America. They can hear this entire broadcast again, my friend.
Check out Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
You can find it on the app on your phone. You can go to YouTube and watch it. You can see us on Facebook, Mere Conservatism, and listen to the podcast there as well.
We'd love for you to do that and make comments if you would like as well. David Perry and I'm Cleve Walker. This is Mere Conservatism, and pretty soon we'll find out the outcome of all this, and may God have his way.